everybody. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you today on WJOPLP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9, and will also be available on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and today I am genuinely delighted that we're focusing on the Newburyport Literary Festival, now in its impressive 20th year. The festival this year takes place between Friday, April 25th and Sunday, April 27th in venues around the city. And today I am especially honored to be talking with this year's two festival honorees. Vicki Hendrickson is here. She's the festival's founder. And Sue Little is here. She is the founder of Jabberwocky Bookshop. They'll be honored at an event focused on them, the importance of being a reader, which will take place Saturday the 26th at 7 p.m. at the Firehouse Center for the Arts. And we're also very fortunate to have Jill Gross here. She's taking over the helm of the festival from Vicki. So first of all, Vicki, Sue, Jill, welcome to the morning show, and thank each of you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting us all.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I wanted to start, Vicki, with you because you founded the festival 20 years ago.
Right.
And I was curious if you ever imagined, when you started it 20 years ago, did you imagine that it would become today the much beloved, major, and extensive festival that it now is?
I don't think I thought that way. I thought, all right, well, we got this done this year. All right, next year. I don't think I ever went that far out. I just thought year to year.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that Jill and Paula Brigger are taking over, and they are so incredible, absolutely got it. And,
Good.
you know, if you don't have that kind of enthusiasm and somebody who's going to embrace the whole idea, then it's not going to work. Because even though it takes an enormous number of people to put it on,
Oh, yeah.
and a lot of money. It's about a $50,000 to $55,000 event because nobody is charged. You know, we don't charge anybody.
Wonderful.
It is.
It's wonderful.
It is, but it takes some development work.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And you just don't sit there and think the money's going to come pouring in, because it didn't.
Would that worked.
Yeah, would that it did.
Yeah.
But we also were very fortunate in the beginning to have the two banks come right to our aid, and the institution and the Newburyport Bank each gave us $15,000 to get started.
Good seed money.
And so it was good seed money, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, whether you expected it to or not, it has grown and endured and become a very popular, much beloved institution in Newburyport. You know, I wonder what you think the keys to its success have been, Vicki.
The community.
Ah.
I mean, if you didn't have a town full of readers, if you didn't have a wonderful bookstore, or two now to go to, if you didn't have an incredible library with all kinds of things going on, if you didn't have people who were interested in books, you couldn't have a book fair.
Aren't we lucky to live in Newburyport?
Every day I say it.
Me too.
Every day I say, oh, thank God I live here. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee.
I know you are.
I'm not born and bred in Newburyport. But this is another thing that I think has always impressed me, and that is, in many New England communities, if you're not born there and your ancestors weren't born there, you really are going to struggle.
You'll be from away, as they say in
You're
Maine.
from away. In Newburyport, that never happens. It's never happened to me anyway. Well, you're from Memphis. Isn't that curious? How much money do you need? And, you know, if you want to do something for Newburyport, it was the same way with Newburyport Adult and Community Education. You want to do something for the town, we're there.
Yeah. Which
so
is
I love
wonderful.
that. It is.
Yeah,
It's extraordinary.
Well, you know, I also wanted to ask you, you've seen over 20 years a lot of writers, lots and lots and lots of writers. I was curious to ask you if there were a couple of highlights that stand out in your memory. I know, and it may not be fair to ask, but I was curious to find out what might come to your mind when you were asked that question.
One of the highlights, because you know my family is also involved in this. Dyke is a writer, and he also moderates almost every year. And my daughter Leslie is a journalist, and she's always involved. So the one that got everybody involved was when George Mitchell came. And he and Dyke were in conversation, but my daughter was a Senate page with George Mitchell.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
what a great connection.
Yeah, and we've known him for years, you know.
Oh, wonderful.
So that was really fun. And then, of course, Andre Dubusse and Rena Espaillat, I mean, they're here every year. The only thing is Andre's son is graduating from college on Saturday, the 26th.
Oh, he has
I
conflict.
almost called the college and said, "Excuse me? What? He can't graduate that day." But anyway, yeah.
Oh, anyway.
So they were great, and I'm just trying to think. We've had so many wonderful local authors that have been terrific. And also we had Richard Russo and Elizabeth Strout and Alan Lightman and Steve Yarborough, Peter Orner. I mean, we really
such
had
an impressive array of people that you've enticed to Newburyport.
It is.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, well, Alan Lightman's from Memphis, so he doesn't have any choice.
Oh, no, he has to come.
He has to come. No backing out of that, babe.
Well, thank you. Those are great highlights, Vicki. Sue, I wanted to ask you some things about Jabberwocky. I know you were just 22 years old when you started Jabberwocky in 1972. And I learned by watching a little interview with you that you were a bartender at another Newburyport institution, the Grog. That might take another show, Sue. And you had the grit and gumption in 1972 to start your own business. And that wasn't the easiest thing in the world for a young single woman to do in 1972. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that you had to overcome in order to get Jabberwocky Bookshop going, launching a business as a young single woman in the early 70s.
It wasn't easy, but at the time, it seemed possible to me.
Well, yeah.
So that is one of, but not in the, as people have talked about this past year, in the early 1970s, a woman could not have a credit card unless she had her husband's permission.
Yeah.
So the whole credit issue was a bit difficult for me. One, not a bit difficult, it was damn difficult.
Yeah, you know, and I think a lot of people don't remember how recently it was.
I borrowed a tiny bit of money from a local bank, who shall remain nameless.
Oh, fair enough.
But I love that bank now. But at the time, I borrowed $2,000 from that bank. And I paid it back. I was up on Temple Street. State Street was two ways. To enter the town, you came down State Street.
Okay.
So being on the corner of Temple and State was actually a good location. Yeah. And from Threadneedle Alley down, it was nothing but blown out buildings. There was no,
it's amazing.
it was waiting to be. And I was actually in line for one of the spots on Lower State Street. It turned out to be 10 State Street. But I paid the bank back all their money, never missed a payment, felt that I was earning good credit, went back in for the loan to move my business because I was the first person in down there. And I wanted $4,000, and the banker looked right at me, leaned back in his chair and said, "Well, Susan, a young woman of your age will be doing other things soon." And he turned me down flat. And it was legal.
Ouch.
That's the worst part.
Yeah.
It was legal in 1972 to act like that and to talk like that. It was those kinds, it was the good old boy club locally, and it was that kind of attitude that added an extra element to overcome.
Challenge,
Because I was young, but I was a woman, and I was on my own. So I worked at the Grog for about a year and a half after I opened. So you would see me running down the hill and sliding behind the bar at 5 o'clock 3 nights a week. And that way, everything that I made could be put back at the bookstore,
Wonderful.
could be put
Yeah.
back in. And it grew. It grew
Yeah.
rapidly.
Yeah.
And I managed to get a loan from a different local bank.
Good for you, because obviously perseverance is one of your survival
yes.
traits and determination. So good for you.
It was a different world then.
Well, I wanted to ask you too, because it was a different world then, and bookselling has changed so much over the past couple of decades, just the past decade. And, from ebooks to online sales to the rise and then the fall, the plummeting of large chain bookstores. And yet, Jabberwocky, much to our relief and delight in Newburyport, continues. So I was curious to ask you about how have you found ways to creatively adapt to these really, I call them seismic changes in the world of bookselling? You're still here.
We're still here, and there are seismic changes, and they're still happening today. We did have the rise of the big chains
Yep.
fall. We did have digital and Amazon, digital reading and Amazon almost at the same time. But people still love books.
Yeah.
And when you read digitally, you lose comprehension and retention. And that has been proven in labs. And a
That's
lot of people
fascinating,
who
Sue.
were reading digitally have come back to physical books. Something about holding a physical book.
Yeah.
That one has been easy. But there's still the challenges are still there.
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble was going under, was bought by a hedge fund. Hedge fund is run by Peter Thiel,
Oh.
one of the
Yeah.
billionaires who's known as a vulture capitalist. And last year they opened 60 new bookstores in New England. One of them was 7 miles away from
Oh.
Jabberwocky. I then checked 27 of the 60 and found that 27 of the 60 new stores were within a 10-mile radius
Oh, wow.
of a thriving independent. Now, on the web, they have this big campaign. We love the independent bookstores.
Yeah.
We're modeling our new stores after them.
Yeah.
And they are. They're very good stores. And then they say, we're bringing community bookselling back to America. That's their
Pitch. Yeah.
that's their pitch.
Yeah.
In actuality, after they open up, everything is 10% off. So what they're doing is already there are bookstores closing.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I found out one was opening in November, close by. So everything at the Jabberwocky is 10% off the original price.
Brilliant.
And then, this is even, I find more interesting. I thought, well, that makes sense. This is what I'm going to do. And we've done that. And we are surviving well.
Great.
Bookstores across the country haven't done that.
Yeah.
We also put out a campaign talking
Yeah.
about what they were doing and letting people know.
Yeah.
And we say, join our fight against vulture capitalism targeting independence nationwide.
Yeah.
It's not just me, it's
Yeah.
nationwide.
Yeah.
Nobody else done that. And I thought, why not?
Why not, indeed? Yeah. Educate people.
Well, and
Yeah.
why aren't other bookstore owners doing this?
I don't know.
I think it's because I'm so old. No, I do.
I hear you.
I think it's because I grew up protesting. I grew up fighting back. My
Yeah.
generation, we fought back.
We did.
marched, and
Interesting.
we were loud. We were really loud, and people need to be loud.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most bookstores are owned by people in their 40s and 50s.
That's fascinating.
And
Sue.
I think they're more passive. And I think they
Yeah.
missed it. Now, I might be
Yeah.
wrong about that, but I checked and nobody else is doing what I did. And my customers love it. My customers are
Yeah.
supporting us. We're going to be fine. And I've got a little mini campaign going trying to urge other bookstores across the nation to join us.
Fight back.
And fight
Be loud.
back.
and
be
be
loud.
strategic.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
So
that's fascinating, Sue. Thank
that's
you for
what
My
that.
car has a Jabberwocky sticker on it.
Oh, good.
BTW.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you know, people love Jabberwocky.
Thank
you. Know, it just has such a great energy to it. And
Thank
things are 10% off.
Yes. Off
Very
the
recently.
off the original
But I'm
price.
curious
Yeah.
to find out, because I know that it's like a bookshop and a community center in one.
Yeah.
What do people, your customers, say to you about what Jabberwocky means personally to them?
Well, I'm so old that now they're
Which is an
saying-
asset, as it turns out.
Yeah, now this
I
summer
thought that was my line.
well,
You can share.
we're close. We're close.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
We're pretty close. So this summer I was on the desk a little bit more, and people would come up and they'd say to me things like, when I was a child, this was my refuge. I'm back home
Oh.
visiting, and I wanted my children, and then they bring
Yeah.
their children in.
Oh, yeah.
And over again, I would hear that.
Yeah.
Or I would hear somebody say, because this is true, before we all carried credit cards, in the 70s and the early 80s, if somebody was from out of town or even in town and they really wanted a book and they didn't have the cash
Yeah.
on them, I'd say, take the book, pay me later.
Yeah,
I
wow,
did that, and I
yeah.
don't know how many
Yeah.
times that came up
Yeah.
this summer. People would say, you said to my parents to take the book, and we
Wow.
sent you a check from Ohio. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I used to do that.
Yeah.
And I would still do it, except everybody, even kids, carry
Have credit cards, no, yeah.
But I do, or people would say, you gave me books.
Wow.
Sometimes I didn't
What a-
say pay me back. If it was a kid and teenager and they needed the book, take the book. I believe in people and books. I believe in the power of reading and the
Yeah.
importance of reading,
Yeah.
of ideas,
Good line.
of ideas and
Absolutely.
stories. And
Right.
so being able to offer that to Newburyport and for years and too many years to count has been a great way to live. And I
Right.
feel very, very, very blessed that I'm in this community
Yeah.
and that I have this bookstore in this community because it's such a cool community.
It is a wonderful community and a book-loving community. And the story that you were telling us means also to me that you've had a tremendous impact. People remember things from years and years
They come in all
ago
the
that
time.
it clearly
During the summer when
meant
they're
something
visiting
to them.
at home, come to visit.
Yes. Yeah, but who doesn't want a good summer read? I mean, after all, it's an important part of summer.
Sue
so
also,
that's-
just to add to her many contributions, when we supply books for one class every year, the Literary Festival does, she gives us a huge discount.
Oh,
so she
wonderful.
sells them at cost
Wonderful.
to the
Right.
class that's getting the books. And she's been doing this for 20 years because we've been doing it for 20 years. so,
Wonderful. What a
yeah.
great gift.
It is.
And,
Tremendous.
and we should add, because we were talking about this just a little before we started the show, that you have a succession plan.
Oh, I do. Absolutely.
I'm going to talk to Jill in just a second, but for Sue, would you tell us a little bit about, because Jabberwocky continues, even if you retire, could you tell us who's taken over?
I am retiring. And my son and my daughter-in-law are taking
Wonderful.
over the bookstore.
That's really great. Staying
Julia
in the family.
is going to be wonderful. She's been
Great.
working at learning the bookstore, learning the ropes
Yeah.
since last August. And we're hoping for the complete transfer
Yeah.
at the end of June.
Okay.
And my son is a published writer. He's done a novel with Abrams and a book on consciousness
Wonderful.
from Simon and Schuster.
Wow.
And books, their house is full of books. You can watch a YouTube video, how I taught my toddler to read,
Oh.
of my grandson
Oh.
reading sentences. I mean, you can tell he's really reading
Yeah.
them. He's not, these are new to him.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, Eric says, and how old are you, Roman? And he goes, 2. He's 2 years old, and he's reading.
That's wonderful.
And now
That's
he's
really
3.
great.
But this is a family that loves books,
Yeah.
loves reading, and it will. Jabberwocky will continue.
Wonderful.
And I could not be
Something
more
to celebrate.
delighted.
And the literary festival will continue as well because
As
you have a
well.
succession plan and
Yes,
she's sitting
my
next
friend,
to you.
my friend Jill Gross. She's amazing, as is her co-chair, Paula Brigger. And then we have new chairs. Mary Barlow is taking
yes. Yeah.
care of development,
Great.
and Sarah Emery
Great.
is taking care of all the venues and the operations, and then my daughter Leslie will stay on as program chair. So
Wonderful. That's great.
it's really a terrific transition.
It sounds
and every
like it.
one of them is just as excited as the next. It's incredible to me.
Well, it's wonderful that you have such a well-stocked and staffed succession plan. And Jill, I wanted to ask you, how and why did you first become involved with the Literary Festival?
Sure. So when I moved to town about 20 years ago, I heard inklings of a festival brewing. And at the time, I was a freelance writer, and I had the opportunity to actually cover the festival. I believe it was the Newburyport Current. And I went to Andre's house and interviewed him, and I also interviewed Vicki before we knew each other as well as we did. So that's how I first heard about the festival. And I was a attendee for many years.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, my friend Meg Mitchell-Moore, who is a writer in town, she's about to publish her 9th book, amazingly,
Wow.
this summer, called Mansion Beach. She told me she was on the programming committee. And I said, oh, that sounds really interesting. I'd love to learn more about that. Attended a couple of meetings with the steering committee. And somehow, about a year later, Vicki announced her plans, and Paula and I sort of stepped up and said, let's keep this thing going.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's great.
And also, I want to mention Nana Kennedy also, because she does volunteers.
Yes.
I don't want to
great.
forget Nana, because she is super
And I know you have a
important.
lot of volunteers.
A lot.
Which is
There
great.
are so many volunteers,
Yeah.
and we really couldn't do it without
Yeah.
them. That's just a key integral part of this whole equation.
Well, I'm sure a lot of volunteers they want to make sure the festival continues.
Yes.
So,
I think they
well,
do, yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're
absolutely.
right.
So, Jill, how do you envision building upon Vicki's legacy as you assume the helm and look forward with the festival into year 21, 22, and
Sure.
hopefully beyond?
Sure. So definitely big shoes to fill, but Vicki has laid an amazing
You
groundwork.
have big feet.
They're actually 6.5, but I know what you
I'm a
mean.
9.5. All right, never mind. Forget it.
It's a euphemism, right? So we will, be building off everything that Vicki has started and has continued over the 20 years. She is still going to be available to us, which is amazing. I love that her daughter Leslie will still be head of the programming committee. And as she mentioned, several of our key volunteers are sticking with us. We're also growing our roster of people who are helping. And we are just being innovative. I mean, one thing that we're really focusing on is fundraising. For example, we had a new event, something we'd never done before, a couple of months ago at the Joy Nest. They were happy, they were gracious enough to host us for in-person sort of book club with author Catherine Newman of Sandwich.
I read about that. Yeah,
Yes,
it
so
sounded
that was
like a huge success.
a big
It was a
success.
huge success. And in addition to that, Mary has created all of these workshops that people can attend, because we've never had, during the festival, we don't have anything that has to do with publishing or writing or any of that kind of thing. So she has done that, and that's also a fundraiser. And then
Right.
I'm teaching writing for people who have never written before. So
Right.
it's long, it's an 8-week class, it's not a workshop. But yeah, they've been very successful.
Yeah.
And people love it.
I bet people love it.
Yeah, they do.
And we also, Sunday, all-day Sunday, we have Zoom programming where people
Right.
do have to register
There's always
to get a link to attend. And our first workshop of Sunday is a writing workshop led by Steve Ullman. Last year, we also had a writing workshop. So we're trying different things to engage different audiences, right? People who really want to write, people who love to just be in the midst of authors. We do have an independent publishing panel, and then, of course, panels across all different genres.
Yeah.
So we're trying to really hit all the demographics, both in terms of programming, but also in terms of fundraising, because that is just a key thing to keep us going.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you want to draw in all those different demographic groups and get them to know and love the festival and
Exactly.
be invested in keeping it going.
Exactly, and with a couple thousand people coming in, it's always the last weekend in April.
Yep.
We want to just keep growing that. It's great for businesses, restaurants, shops. Hopefully, we'll have a good weather weekend.
Yay,
And
let's hope.
Yeah, let's
no
hope so.
snow.
No more. No, enough, really.
And one other thing I'd love to mention is thanks to Sue and our other bookshop partner, the Bookshop of Beverly Farms. Hannah Harlow is on our programming committee. We sell the books relating to the panels at each of the venues.
Yeah.
So it's really nice.
Which is a great thing to do. I'm sure the authors appreciate that
They
as
really
well.
do. And then you can get your book signed, and
Yeah.
it's just a nice personal touch for everyone.
Sue, it looked like you wanted to say
Oh, I just
something.
wanted to say the authors are happy to sign them.
Oh, I bet,
And they
yeah.
can sign them to someone else if you're thinking
Right.
that this would be a grand present. I know people who've done their Christmas shopping.
Well, why
because-
not?
Yeah.
Right, they
Right,
can get a
yeah.
book signed to
Yeah.
their.
No, I'm confident that having somebody ask you to sign the book that you wrote is a joy that never diminishes for a writer. So,
One of
well,
the things I just wanted to get in is that the video, the virtual program all day Sunday,
Yeah.
it's not in town. It's
Right.
virtual, but we get people from all over the country.
yes, you
And
do.
the world.
Yeah,
And the world.
I
We
bet,
get,
yeah.
all over the
Right.
world. That's right. Some of the authors are from,
Right.
they're visiting in Sweden right now.
Yeah.
We probably won't get too many people from Greenland, but, but still,
Maybe
it
next
gives us a
year.
universality that we
Yeah,
wouldn't have
right.
ordinarily.
It really has international reach.
Yeah,
so, which is
yeah,
pretty
international
amazing
reach.
for a city of 18,000 people.
Yes.
I know.
But with an enormous cultural footprint, just because of the community, as you were saying earlier. Well, I wanted to ask you, because the theme of this year's festival is the importance of being a reader. It's a great theme. And so I wanted to ask each of you, following up on that theme, if you have had yourself, I'd call it a transformational reading experience that you may have had as a child or an adult, or yesterday, or this morning, a book or a passage in a book that you return to over and over, or one that you feel impacted you deeply and you kind of carry it with you in your heart. So I wanted to emphasize the importance of being a reader. I'd like to ask each of you if you have an author or a book experience that has had that kind of impact on you.
Well, mine is Huckleberry Finn.
Ah,
And I've probably read it 20-something times. And of course, the scene when Jim and Huck are going down the river
Yeah.
is the scene, the scene.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But the scene that I read to my children, and they loved it. And when my son brought his first girlfriend home, he said, "Ma, you got to read that."
oh, wow,
So,
okay.
But it's in the second chapter, and it's when they start Tom Sawyer's gang.
oh, yes,
And
of
it
course.
is so funny.
Yeah.
It's the typical, well, we have to do this by the book. We can't use our common sense. We have to do this by the book. And you think how many managerial students could benefit from reading that passage?
Yeah, I reread Huckleberry Finn in preparation for reading Percival Everett's James.
Oh, James, brilliant.
James.
Oh my God.
Brilliant.
He's
Yeah.
such a talented writer.
Yeah, he
He's
is. I would
astonishing.
love to
He
get
really
him for
is.
the festival.
That was another question I was going to fit in. Who would be a dream festival invitee? Okay, Percival
Well, he's
Everett.
one, and James McBride. I don't know if
Oh,
you've read
yeah,
James
Color
McBride.
Run. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
Geraldine Brooks. She wrote
Oh my God,
Horse.
please.
Oh, I mean, those are my dream
Please,
guys.
Horace,
Yeah.
March. I mean, she's a genius.
Yeah.
So, well, you two, whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I could go, and then I'll let
sure.
you go. So for me, there was a moment when I was in journalism school, and one of my professors was unveiling her novel, which is a memoir. Her name was Michelle Weldon. It was her first book. And something about that moment for me, just having her explain her book, why she wrote it, and showing us the book and buying the book right there, it just really was a full circle moment for me. I grew up as a reader, but that was really the first time I felt connected to a writer, and also saw that anyone has the ability to take their story or a story that resonates with them and put it in the written word and share that story out. So that was super impactful for me.
Great. Thanks,
in terms of a guest, Ellen Hildebrand is a favorite, and I know she would bring in a huge audience, and that would be a great problem to have. Let's see, who else? I mean, Dreaming Big, Barbara Kingsolver, Kristen Hanna, Colson Whitehead, Ann Patchett.
We've had Ann Patchett.
Did we have her in person or virtual?
Not in person, but we had her virtually. Yeah.
So those are
wonderful.
a few.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So if you're listening,
I know.
Newburyport
Reach out.
wants you. How about you, Sue?
The impact.
Yeah.
What I was thinking about this, I thought when I was a child and became a reader. I lived on a farm in Newbury with my grandparents and my parents. And my grandparents had grown up during the Depression. And we are now talking about the early 50s. So we didn't have we had some books in the house, but not a lot. But books were important. They were terribly important to us. And we would go to the library and bring them back. And in fact, my brother and I we would steal books. We would steal them from the adult section because the librarians wouldn't let us take out the Black Stallion or Tarzan.
Oh my gosh.
And then we would have to sneak them back the next week. We never kept one, but they wouldn't let us take them out because this was the 1950s and it was a stallion. And no, I'm serious.
I wonder if he could have gotten along.
Newburyport
I believe
in the 50s. And they claimed that Tarzan and Jane were not married.
Oh my gosh.
But they were by the ship's captain, and we even showed them. So books were important to us and my family. But when my grandmother, her best friend, started the Rowley Free Public Library in her living room in Rowley. That's how libraries started. Libraries often started with women readers opening a library in their house, and that's where the Rowley Free Public Library started.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And my grandmother had some books. And some of the books she had were Jean Stratton Porter, whom nobody reads today. Freckles, Girl of the Limberlost. These very old books, they were written for adults. I read them in second grade. And my favorite book was Keeper of the Bees, written by Jean Stratton Porter in probably the 30s, maybe. Probably the 30s, or right after the war, because Keeper of the Bees is about a war-weary soldier who's hitchhiking, traumatized. These were adult books. I'm 7. And
but your 2-year-old grandson is reading.
Got you beat, babe.
It runs in the family.
My son read all of the Lord of the Rings in second grade, so I shouldn't be surprised. But he ends up staying with a beekeeper. An elderly beekeeper to help him. And he's telling the story. He watches these children down on the shore playing on the rocks, these boys that are playing imaginary games, often, kind of military or swords. And he thinks about violence and he thinks, but I loved this book. And at the end, at the end of the book, you learn that the leader of those boys was a girl.
All right.
In the 50s. That
meant something.
That book meant so much to me.
I'm sure.
I'm sure it's meaning something to me. I'm going to go get it.
Yes. She's a great writer. Nobody reads
wonderful.
her today, but I still carry The Girl of the Limberlost
Oh.
and Freckles, I think, upstairs in
Oh,
the
wonderful.
young adult section.
That's a great
But
story.
that
Thank you,
is a
Sue,
great
for
story.
sharing that. And who would your dream invitee to a future literary festival
Oh,
be?
you know, these two have named
Yeah.
some of my most
Yes,
favorite
they have.
writers. They really, really,
Yep.
really have.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to say that's,
It is.
I really agree with all the writers
Yeah.
that they've mentioned. One of my, I'm going to see what I can do after I retire, because I haven't done it for them before. I'm going to work through my contacts and my knowledge of New England authors and see
great.
whom I can strong arm into.
Good. That's
All
a
right.
good plan.
It
It's
is
a
an
plan,
excellent
honey.
plan.
I
We're
need
counting
a
on you, Sue.
retirement job, and I think I love the literary festival. Jabberwocky loves it.
Wonderful.
And we can, we can
Well,
help.
and isn't it fun to talk about the books you love?
Oh,
the books
I
you
mean, it's such a community building thing. I
There's
love
no
this.
conversation that you can have that is more fun than talking about books.
That's right.
Nothing. I can't
Right.
think of anything. Music, art, maybe those two, but you want to talk politics? Oh, take an aspirin or, but
Put me
talk
in a coma.
books. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A coma's good.
We get to do this all day long at
Which is
the
wonderful.
Jabberwocky.
Yeah.
All day.
Right.
And my staff gets to do it. They all love books and talking about books. That's what we do. Talking books. We all
Right.
adore that and sharing. And then our customers tell us, and they
I
get
bet.
excited.
That's
and
right.
we do
Yeah.
this all day long.
Yeah.
Great conversations.
Which is wonderful and civilizing.
It's very civilized, and it's an incredible way to earn a living.
It
I mean,
is.
really.
But
How
you
lucky.
earned it
How
because
lucky.
you persisted.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
You didn't
yeah.
let those obstacles stop you from going ahead and doing what you wanted, and it's been going on, and now it's continuing in your family, which is wonderful. Well, we're running out of time, but it has just been so much fun.
Thank you,
You
Mary.
to
Thank
have
you.
this
Terrific.
the literary luminaries of Newburyport here to share the enthusiasm and the joy and the importance of being a reader. So living embodiments of
Yeah,
the importance
go get
of
a
being
book
a reader.
at Jabberwocky.
And please check our website for the full schedule and
Yes.
plan your days out. Friday night, join us at the Firehouse. All day Saturday, you have 6 venues to choose from. Saturday night program, and then virtually Sunday. We'd love to have each and every one of you in the community.
And it's an easy website to remember because it is NewburyportLiteraryFestival.org.
Yes.
Amen. And if you can't remember the .org, just Google us. We'll
Just
come.
Google it, you'll find it.
Yes.
And it is a great lineup, as it always is every year. So thank you all so much.
Thank
It's been
you,
so much
Mary.
fun to
Thank
talk
you.
to you, and thank you all, in addition to being on the morning show, just for the work that all of you have done to bring reading into such vivid life in Newburyport and for keeping the festival going. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for
Thank
that.
you.
Well,
Thank you.
That's it for today, everybody. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Until then, everybody be well and read something great.